What up, everybody? It's Double G for the Fight Game podcast. Paul Fontaine is substituting for John LaRocca, who we had to put on the 7-day DL today. He's on the injured list, so we'll have to see if he's ready to go next week. I think he got like a head cold or something, and when you have young kids, you just get a little bit sick, and it can get worse really quickly. So we're hoping that John gets better soon. And yeah, so Paul decided that he was like, hey, I can do a better show than John. No, Paul is so gracious every time when I hit him up, and a lot of times I hit him up like kind of like late in the game, and he's like, yep, I'm game. So appreciate you jumping in, Paul. How was your Friday heading into the weekend?
Just, pretty casual. It was funny because I was getting set to listen to some podcasts, and I noticed that there was no Fight Game podcast on my feed. So I put up a thing in our Discord asking, hey, what's the show this week? And then little did I know I was going to end up being part of it. No, I've just been catching up on some stuff. Right before we started the show, I still have like 2 days left of the New Japan Tag League to watch. So I already know who won, but I still like to see the matches. So.
Yeah.
I've got that going on, and I watched SmackDown. That was a good show.
I know. I
Good.
wanted to see it because John and I don't usually record on Fridays, but I had the 49er game last night, and I was going to try and do both shows, but I just told John like sometime yesterday, I was like, yeah, can we move it to Friday? And he's like, sure. And it would allow us to at least get through some of SmackDown. So I was like, okay, that'll be fine. But then he wasn't able to do it. So then you and I went a little earlier, and I couldn't get to SmackDown. Yeah. But you know what I did get to? And I don't know if your wife is like this, but my wife every December has to watch all of her favorite Christmas movies. Like there's just a rotation, and it's not even like a guess what, kids, we're gonna put on our jammies and what. It's just like it's a process. Okay. We're watching Elf. We're watching Chris. She has to start with Christmas Vacation. We're watching Home Alone. Some
all
people
good
count
movies.
Some people don't. Yeah, they're all good. But I'm the type of person that I'm probably good 1 every 3 years watching Christmas Vacation. Like I can't just watch it. It feels like I just watched it yesterday. Yeah. What it feels like. So, but I told her, I said, but what I'll do is, if there are new Christmas movies, there's a new Lindsay Lohan Netflix Christmas movie that's pretty fun. I said, I'll watch all these new ones with you, and then we'll figure out which ones go into your rotation next year. So last year, we watched a movie with Mario Lopez. It was probably like a Lifetime Channel movie or something, and it was called Feliz Navidad.
Oh, God.
And you can imagine, just by that title, how corny the movie was, but I'm just in. I'm like, you know what? If you're gonna have
it's Slater, why not?
If you're gonna have the guts to name a Christmas movie Feliz Navidad, I'm in. And like Mario Lopez is a charming dude, and I feel like I've known him all my life, so I'm in. So we watched the Lindsay Lohan movie this year. There's another one called Hot Frosty with Lacey Chabray, or I forget how her last name is pronounced, but she used to be on Party of Five.
Is that she the one that was on Roseanne too?
No, different. Okay. I think it's a different person, but so she's the youngest in Party of Five, which was like a show from like 20 years ago. But she was also in Mean Girls. She was one of the Mean Girls in Mean Girls with Lindsay Lohan. So she's like in this genre, like she's on all of these Lifetime and Hallmark movies. This is kind of her lane. So that she did one, and so we liked that, and then we liked the Lindsay one. And then I was like, all I did was I went into my Apple TV and I went into search and I went Mario Lopez to Siri. And then it pulled up all of the Mario Lopez movies. And so it was like, oh, Holiday in Santa Fe, kind of AKA Feliz Navidad Part 2. And so we just finished that. And so we only got, what is it? I don't know, 12 days, technically 11 days left. So we still got a bunch to get through, but that is what we've been doing in our spare time. So instead of watching old shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and, getting through The Office for the 4th time. So now we're on these Christmas movies. So anyways, that's the season.
Yeah, no, my wife doesn't have any patience for movies, but did you get Bad Santa in your rotation? That's like my
Not
favorite.
sure if that is in her thing. We'll see.
Oh,
I'll see because at some point we're gonna run out, right? We're gonna run
yeah.
out of all the new ones, and then
That movie is so funny. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely not for everybody, but I don't watch movies twice. I've seen that movie like 6 times. It's like,
Wow.
yeah.
So all right, now we got that out of the way. Let's talk about some wrestling stuff here.
Yeah.
You have done this show many times, and we will. I don't have to tell you, but I don't always do a lot of the shows on YouTube, so there's a new audience. So I just want to kind of mention what we're gonna do. We do our thumbs up and thumbs down for good and bad from the week, and then we do a top 5. We just tackle 5 topics. I don't even think I told Paul what the topics are, so he's gonna just go with the flow. And we'll randomly dig in and answer some questions if folks have them as well. So I guess we should just dig in and hit our hit our thumbs up, thumbs down here.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
All right, I will let you go first with your.
Okay. So my thumbs up may surprise people if you've been reading what I say in the Discord, or on the F4W message board, or even on Twitter, or even watching the Dynamite show. But I was thinking about this, and I want to give a thumbs up to the booking and even the wrestling in the Continental Classic. Now, I will say, I think last year's tournament, at least so far, we're about halfway through. I think I liked last year's better than I like this year's in terms of just the in-ring action.
You know what? Also, the stories. There seemed to be some stories last year that I'm not really following this year, because Eddie Kingston being one of them.
Right, Eddie Kingston, Daniel Garcia. I think the story this year is Fletcher and maybe a little bit of Brody King, but it's more about just the wrestling. And what my thumbs up is actually the booking of the tournament, in the sense that when when I'm doing my recap of the show for the Dynamite show on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel, I write down tons of notes. And when they would give us the standings, I would write down the standings. And so I didn't watch Rampage today. I don't know if there's any tournament matches on there.
No, there was not. I looked to make sure.
Okay, so the Blue League standings, we had Kyle Fletcher with 9. So he's like way ahead of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got Daniel Garcia, Kazuchika Okada, Mark Briscoe, and Shelton Benjamin all have 3. So there's like 4 guys competing for one spot in the playoffs, which I like. I mean, it's wide open, and theoretically, any of those guys could get that spot. There's no other than Beast Mortos, who's got 0 points, and Commander, who's got 0 points in the other bracket. Everyone's in this. On the other side, we got Claudio, Ospreay, and Ricochet all have 6 points, and Darby and Brody each have 3. So if you're into the sports, and and we're coming into NFL playoff times, and and they'll show you oh, this and this happens, this team could get into the playoffs. Literally, almost anyone in this tournament is still alive, even though after tomorrow, I think Okada's wrestled 4 times. He's only got 1 match left. Some of the guys have 2 or 3 matches left. So, and again, I like the matches. I thought the Brody King Ricochet match this past week was my favorite match so far in the tournament. I know you really like the Ospreay Claudio match that kicked off the show. So, I didn't like that one as much as you, but I mean, it's Ospreay in a singles match. It's still very, very good.
What I liked about that match, and you actually mentioned when we were talking about it, that I also liked the Claudio and Darby match. I like the physicality and the craziness of that. I didn't like the finish, though. I didn't think Darby should have necessarily lost in the fashion that he did. But the thing about the Will match is he wrestled like an underdog babyface. And I like that, because that story is an easy story to tell to get someone over with the audience. If the audience sees their hero kind of being beaten by the bigger dude, and then their hero outsmarts the big bad. I like that storytelling, so that's why I really like that match.
And Darby and Claudio are going to have another match in the tournament, because that match we talked about was not in the tournament. So I expect that'll be on the last day, and I expect Darby will actually beat Claudio and knock him out of the tournament. Like, that's good storytelling if that's what they do. And wrestle the exact match that you just described, except this time Darby wins.
All right, we'll talk more about the Continental Classic in a little bit, because I do want to dig a little bit deeper in it. And I'll go to my thumbs up. My thumbs up is for this thing on YouTube called WWE Vault. And I'm wondering, like, I don't sit there and go, oh my gosh, I have to see this necessarily. Like, they put up a match. They put up actually a kind of crazy dark match. I think it was today. It's like Cena and Batista and Hogan on the same team or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nuts. I like the attempt of seeing if you can drive eyeballs to YouTube. YouTube is, I still think it's kind of underutilized by both companies. Look, WWE's YouTube is super popular, right? They have so many subscribers. I don't know if they're the most subscribed to technically sports, whatever in the world, but they're up there as far as popularity and subscribers. But I still think I'm not sure any of these companies have really unlocked the potential of how many people pay attention to YouTube. And so what I think now, no one has told me this. I have no idea if this is actually what they're doing. I think our buddy Jason, he mentioned this, that this could be a future home for the archives. Like we you and I are going to be dreading the day where we cannot find old content. Not that we necessarily have time to watch it, but I like doing projects, and I like going back, and I like validating things that I saw. And if Peacock is not in the game in 2026, and let's say Netflix takes over the entire WWE PLEs and all that stuff, right now they have Raw, and they're going to do some documentaries. But let's say they take the whole shebang. I don't think they're going to host an archival space for all the old Raws, all the old Saturday night main events and all that. But what I think this YouTube thing is a possible experiment to see, hey, could we possibly put some of this content in something like a WWE Vault? And maybe will fans pay $5 or $10 a month to have access to this stuff? Depending on what I'm doing at the time, I probably would. Like, it feels like we spend $10 a month on like so many things at this point, but so it's not like it's just this giant crazy cost. It's not like I'm not used to already doing this. If it serves a purpose, I think it could be interesting. Or you just have it up for free and you got to click through ads. Not necessarily my favorite, but I would understand. Maybe you have both. Maybe you have the free channel and the subscription channel. So I just think if you're kind of looking towards the future, I think WWE may be saying, I wonder if this is a place where, as a backup plan for content.
Yeah, I didn't even know about it. Someone in the chat mentioned they have 870,000 subs, and I think it's only been around a couple weeks, so that's not bad. And they don't really promote it at all on television. So I would assume that if and when they do something like what you're describing, that they would heavily push it and try to drive traffic there. And maybe you start it out for free, and then when you get people hooked, then that's when you decide, okay, we're going to add the archives, but we're going to charge you. So you can keep watching these featured matches that we put up every week for free. And there, I just looked at the channel, and there's some cool stuff there. They had Kurt Angle's first match in the Funkin' Dojo, and they had Abyss presenting matches from Puerto Rico, and like all this weird stuff. So yeah, you drive people to the channel that way, and then it's like, oh, if you want the paid version, and we've got all the Raws, all the SmackDowns, we've got Mid-South and Mid-Atlantic
absolutely,
and all that. Yeah. And if it's like $10 a month, I'd sign up day one.
And look, just for the archives. I don't think I would have to learn a little bit more about the inner workings of YouTube working with these big companies. But there's a reason why Netflix wouldn't host it, and it's because Netflix,
Yeah.
they're only going to host things that get engagement. They're not going to let a Monday Nitro from 1986 just sit on their service unwatched. Like they're like, okay, we need to move that and find something that actually is getting engagement. But for YouTube is literally an archive for old stuff that people have uploaded from their VCR, and some people watch it, some don't. It's not like YouTube goes to individual content creators and goes, you know what? No one has clicked on this thing in the last 3 months, thus we are booting it. Now they could boot for like copyright and stuff, but it's just that it's just a historical archive of
That
video.
stuff
So
never leaves. My son put up a video on his own YouTube channel like 14 years ago, and it's still there. Like I googled it the other day, and he actually got like something like 5,000 views, like
Yeah.
which was incredible at that time, and it's still there. And and so I don't think those stuff ever goes away. My cup of Joe with Grandpa Des, I'm still there.
All right, what is your thumbs down?
My thumbs down. You're gonna think I'm copping out, but my thumbs down is the Continental Classic. Now, not the actual execution of it, the booking, as I mentioned, that stuff is all good. I've enjoyed it. And I think a lot of people that watch the shows have. But what I'll say is the Continental Classic makes the television show better when it's booked well. But the Continental Classic is hurting AEW business-wise. And I'm going to explain why. You're asking fans to watch 3 separate shows every week in order to follow this tournament. That's 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, WWE already has 6 hours. You've got, New Japan has this tournament going on right now as well that a lot of people like to watch, and there's a lot of crossover with the AEW audience. They're doing pay-per-view promoting right away, so maybe some people want to follow that. So you're asking people to follow this. If you only have time to watch 2 hours of AEW, which the majority of their audience, that's if you look at ratings, look at the viewership, it's about 60% at best of their audience that watches Collision, and even less that watch Rampage. So you're asking fans to watch 5 hours of television in order to keep up with this tournament. And I think what's happening is some people are checking out because there's just too much. And yeah, I'll give them 2 hours a week, but if I'm watching Dynamite and I have no idea what's going on, you've got this, so-and-so has got 6 points. What? I haven't seen him wrestle. What are you talking about? And like Okada's in the tournament? Like I haven't seen him like once, but you're telling me he's in this tournament. Like, so and this even goes back to like a lot of people talk about the Toni Storm thing. She debuts in the overrun on Dynamite, and then she shows up on Rampage and wrestles a match. And it's like, God, if I want to see Toni Storm now, I gotta watch Rampage. And it's like, no, it's just too much. I'm just gonna quit. Like I'll just go watch WWE, or I'll go touch grass. I'll watch something else. I'll watch the 49ers, and so yeah, I think that's what's happening with them. Like having 5 hours a week and having it be connected. And I get the argument that you want to drive eyeballs to those shows. You want to have some important things happen so that people will watch those shows. But the downside to that is if you have important things happen on those shows and you don't catch up your fans that didn't watch those shows, they may just check out. And I've talked to people that don't watch anymore. That's the main reason why, is because there's too much to follow. Whereas if you watch WWE, you can watch Raw. If all you have time for is 2 hours, you can watch Raw. You're not missing out on anything because the storylines on Raw are on Raw. The storylines on NXT are on NXT. The storylines on SmackDown are on SmackDown. Occasionally, they'll cross over. WWE hammers you over the head with what happened if they're doing a crossover because they know, you know what? There's 1.5 million people that watch Raw. There's 1.5 million people that watch SmackDown. It's not the same 1.5 million people that are watching both shows. It may be 50%. They know that a lot of their fans don't watch both shows, so they make sure to catch you up. So yeah, my thumbs down is the way that the Continental Classic is spread out over 3 shows is hurting their business, in my opinion.
I think the argument is, and this is something that I wish that they did better, which is, and I've been saying this for a while, is connect the 2 shows more to make you want to check in with the other show. Now, Rampage is a different thing, but we're getting rid of Rampage, so we don't have to worry about that. There's only going to be 2 shows to talk about. But let's say, because this is what Raw and SmackDown were before the brand split, right? It was like, oh, the heel Triple H is beating up Hulk Hogan. Find out what happens Thursday night on SmackDown, and then fade to black. And then Thursday night, you see the recap of what happened on Raw. What's Austin going to do about it? And that's the Thursday show. So this has successfully been done in the past. So it's not like this is something that is a brand new idea that's just a bad idea. I just think they have to give you a reason to watch both shows, and I'm not sure that they do that. And
but even if they did, you may not have the time, because when the era you're talking about, WWE was either the only game in town, or they were number one. And if you're the number one company, you can get away with that. If you're number two, and the average wrestling fan may not have 5 hours a week for you. So if you do stuff on Dynamite that makes you want to watch Rampage, you're like, oh man, I'd love to watch Rampage. I just don't have the time. So you know what? I may just not watch Dynamite anymore.
But what if the show is so good that you make the time? Like, that's the other part,
if it
right?
was, then they would have more people watching.
And I think that is a possible solution to your problem, is because your problem is coming from the viewpoint of Dynamite's cold, Collision's cold, people are already opting out, and thus
or that WWE is hot, and you know what, and maybe the average wrestling fan, maybe they got 5 hours a week, but they want to give 3 to WWE, so they've only got 2 left for AEW.
I'm not sure people watch TV like that anymore, by the way. It's kind of like me and you.
Fair enough.
You know, you and I, we will watch in these pockets of like, okay, this is a dedicated thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure lots of people kind of check in and check out, which is also part of the problem. You know, the thing about the Continental Classic is, I think it's an interesting experiment to kind of test your theory. But the problem is, for the last year, they've been telling us that Rampage does not matter. So all of a sudden, when you put a Continental Classic on that show, people are like, well, I've already stopped watching it, and I've already fulfilled it with something else. Like, I've fulfilled it with a different hour of TV or a different thing. And so now you got to go back and watch Rampage if you want to keep up with it as a completionist, I guess.
Well, and then the other thing is, sometimes you don't even know. Like, Dynamite ends, and when Dynamite was over this week, I asked in our Discord, because they pay attention sometimes even better than I do, and I'm like, are there any tournament matches this weekend? And nobody knew. Like, and this is Dynamite's over. That's your biggest audience. And we had no idea. Apparently there's there's a Fletcher Briscoe match tomorrow night. That's incredible. Going up against Saturday night's main event, which we're going to talk about. I think most people are going to be watching Saturday night's main event.
Okada and the Beast Mortos.
Oh yeah, great. It's Okada though. I mean, you know what? Okada's the best in the world.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or
I don't know about
60% of the best in the world.
Yeah, I don't know about this Okada. That's my joke, is that
I know
60%. But I bet you, and this is what I was telling Dave. Now, this is my second show of the day. I did a show with Dave Meltzer earlier, so some of my stuff I'm kind of repeating. But I was telling him, I was like, man, you know, this New Japan show, they better book Okada, because Okada's been on like the last 3 San Jose shows, I think.
I don't think they are.
And I was like, he's kind of like a San Jose wrestler. Like, San Jose loves Okada. And I bet you, if he wrestles in front of that San Jose audience, that he will wrestle more like the New Japan Okada than the current AEW Okada that I'm watching on television, which I joke that is like the 60% Okada. It's like,
is that the show on Sunday, or is that
no? This is the Battle in the Valley, which is
okay. So yeah, he could end up on that one.
Yeah. No, he's not on this one in SoCal, not at all. The one in SoCal is like kind of. I look at that card and I was like, I would have expected.
Jeremy says it's fire, so
I would have expected more star power. Let's just say that.
Mercedes on it. So
you know what? I had a Continental Classic segment for us to do, but let's just keep doing it here, and we'll skip it in the top 5. But ultimately, what you were saying was that Fletcher is in the lead, and it looks like he's going to get one of those two top spots, probably the number one. And Garcia is at 4 points. Okada's at 4 points. Shelton is at 3. Mark Briscoe is at 3. So all of those dudes are in the mix for one of those two spots.
Love that.
But how many people do you really think are in the mix?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, they all are, and the fact is like we could get a surprise, make the semifinals. I think the finalists are going to be. It's going to be 2 of 3 guys. It's going to be Kyle Fletcher, Kazuchika Okada, and Will Ospreay. It's going to be 2 of those 3.
Yes,
and any of those matchups should be great. There's stories that you can tell with any of those matchups. I would say if there's going to be a dark horse that gets in it, maybe Brody King. I just because I think he's getting over, and I'm not sure that they expected it, and he's still in this. So, like if it was me, I might, at least get him to the semifinals.
Okay, because the way that I look at that bracket, I look at it and go, as a I don't know. Do we call each other smart wrestling fans? As someone who pays attention, I would say Okada's got to be one of the top 2. He's the defending champion. Yeah. It makes sense that he is. If he is beaten for his spot, that is a meaningful. That is almost like winning the title in of itself, right? So the way that I would have done that is I would have flipped Kyle Fletcher and Okada, had Okada dominate, and have Kyle Fletcher in the mix with all of those other guys. And then it's Fletcher and Garcia and Benjamin and Briscoe. And I think most people would probably still think Kyle's going to get it, but at least there's more curiosity, because if Kyle is number 1 in that side, to me, you just said there's competition. To me, I'm like, Okada's going to be there no matter what. So that's the different way that we look at the booking. And in the Ospreay side, Ospreay, Ricochet, and Claudio are tied with 6, and then Darby and Brody and poor Commander.
Oh, actually, Darby could win this too.
So that was my point, which is I'm assuming that you want Darby in the mix, and you got to have Ospreay in the mix. So I don't know. I think the problem with the brackets or the blocks is that there's too much separation between the people who I think are probably going to be in it and the people like the have and the have-nots. Like there's too many have-nots in this tournament. That's more the problem for me when it comes to the booking of it, is just that you can put X's between like 5 guys, even if they are in the mix. Like there's no way that Mark Briscoe is going to be one of the top 2, even though he might be my favorite wrestler in the whole thing. There's just Tony doesn't book that way.
I haven't heard the spoilers. I haven't seen the spoilers, so I don't know, but I have a feeling that Mark Briscoe is going to beat Kyle Fletcher tomorrow night. I haven't seen it either. I haven't seen it. But I was just looking. I think I know how this is going to go. Ospreay's going to win he's going to finish first in his block. Darby's going to, as I said earlier, going to beat Claudio on the last show and get that second spot. So you got Ospreay and Darby on that side. And then the other side, you got Kyle Fletcher and then Okada. So Kyle's first, Okada's second. So that gives you Kyle and Darby and Okada and Ospreay at the pay-per-view. And then the 2 winners face each other. And that's probably Kyle and Ospreay in the finals, would be my guess. So Okada loses to Ospreay in the semifinals, and he loses his belt. So that would be my guess.
I think that's a great way to do it. But you know what? And I've made this argument. I would have loved for the semifinals and the finals to be on different days so that you can really advertise that finals, and you want both of those guys fresh. And also, what happens if someone gets hurt? Like there's that issue. So
you're giving away Kyle and Will 3 with no advertising in my scenario, which that seems like you're leaving money on the table.
But so I don't even know how to pronounce this, but so
Rodbent?
Rob Dent.
Okay,
says so the top 3 favored finalists are former New Japan, which kind of makes sense if you're doing a G1, not technically G1 style, but close to a G1. It would make sense to me that
Yeah,
The
and
folks who are
they've
good at it are former New Japan.
Kyle Fletcher has a lot of tournament experience as well with the tag leagues and all that. And yeah, and Will Ospreay and Okada are former G1 winners. So yeah, that makes sense.
All right, let's get to our. No, I didn't. Did I do my thumbs up? Oh, my
No, you
thumbs
didn't.
down. My thumbs
Yeah.
down. It's an easy one. It is the GM character of Ava in NXT,
Oh,
who
good. I get to talk about this.
who I guess is supposed to be just like the most disorganized, dumbest person in charge in wrestling, because we have Aldis and Adam Pearce on WWE TV as the GMs, and they're like whip smart. Like they talk down to the talent. They keep them in line. And then Ava is like a very terrible version of like the old school GMs that WWE used to have. And man, her character is so bad at her job, which is part of the story. She gets outmaneuvered by Eddie Thorpe of all people, and she books people on multiple matches per show. Like I don't know. This is a wacky character. If I was The Rock, I'd just call up Triple H and go, "Hey man, talk to your boy Sean. Like, can you make my daughter's character a little bit smarter, because she looks really dumb right now."
I well, she's 23. The guys you're talking about, they're in their late 40s, early 50s. They got a lot of experience, and she has 2 assistants too, which is hilarious because the other guys don't even have assistants. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, and that is like, but they had the best payoff. I mean, I'm going to parrot Brian Alvarez here, except for I'm actually the one who told him about it before he saw it. And I didn't tell him what happened. I just said, it's the best thing ever. And, wait for it. And then he loved it more than I did. But yeah, so at the end, yeah, she gets outmaneuvered by Eddie Thorpe, who I guess he's a heel, but to me, and people may not know this by looking at me, but I'm Native American, or I'm Canadian, but Aboriginal.
Mhm.
And so for Eddie, a lot of stuff he talks about, like I relate to,
Mhm.
like even like some of these vignettes where they're like dancing and stuff like that's my culture.
Mhm.
So, and then when he says, my people have been through enough, in that one line, and for most people, that's like a heel line. For me, it's like, preach, like amen. And then he goes and he cons Ava into a title shot, and he tells her why. And this is after a month of him being screwed over and over and over again by this woman. That she's blowing him off.
Yeah,
And
she just didn't have time for him.
yeah,
Was the
no,
story.
yeah, and then that one where he got accused of knocking her over, and Shawn Michaels got in his face and was gonna kill him, and he's like, I didn't do anything. Like, so awesome.
Okay, but you did see my response in the Discord, which is during the Obafemi and Trick interview, I was like, this dude better not have knocked himself out. And that's the turn at the end of the show. And I was right. But I
I'm
mean,
surprised you saw it coming, because I didn't.
it was just, I was just trying to think of what I would perceive as kind of
Okay.
the silliest thing to happen here. Because, I know a lot of the people enjoy the campiness of that show as the charm. And that's the part that I hate the most
Yeah, I
about
know.
NXT. But it can't also be the same exact tone as Raw and SmackDown, because they just wouldn't do it as well. So I do understand why they have to do a slightly goofier show with
And I
younger
will
people.
I will say, I think there's a chance he might win the title on Tuesday, because I could see him winning it and then losing it right away to Obafemi. And then because he's got the title shot on the 1st or whatever,
Mhm.
that New Year's Evil show. And then you can build to Obafemi and Trick Williams at Stand and
For
Deliver.
WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, because I think that's a big match. And I don't think you want to do it in like 2 weeks. So this is a way you can take the title off Trick, and Trick can be the babyface going into that challenge, which
Mhm.
is usually the better build when you
Yeah.
got the babyface going for it. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah, and Eddie Thorpe, like, God, a month ago, people were writing this guy off. Like, why did he ever leave the dojo and all this? And now he's in like a prominent position on NXT. So good for him.
Eddie Thorpe, one of the few people that John LaRocca and I have interviewed on this show.
Yeah, with Carl Fredericks, right?
Yeah, when he was Carl Fredericks,
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the top 5.
Drums, please.
All right, so let's break down some of the stuff we talked about. We don't need to talk about the Continental Classic, which was one of my top 5, so we can cross that one out. So it might technically only be the top 4 here. But I just wanted to go through quickly some of the news that came out of SmackDown and Rampage. Though not really much came out of Rampage, but also the TNA show Final Resolution saw the re-debut of Tessa Blanchard attacking Jordan Grace. Now, I don't know if you knew that this was coming or not.
I knew she was returning, and I knew that there was a chance she was going to feud with Jordan. I kind of feel like Jordan's on her way out, so it kind of surprised me that they're doing that, unless it's just going to be a quick, like, 2-week thing. Because I expect by Royal Rumble she's going to be in WWE. I don't know if do you remember I wrote an article for Fight Game Media about 5 years ago about Tessa Blanchard, and this is before all this stuff about her came up. But it's when she won the men's title there, and I said it was bad for women's wrestling.
Yeah, I do remember that now.
Yeah, I tried to find it, but I think it's gone.
Yeah, I think it's gone too. All of I have an archive of all of that stuff, but it's not active on the internet right now.
I'm not, like, I understand a lot of people are upset about her because of the stuff that she's been accused of, and this, quite honestly, the stuff she's done. And I just, like, for me, like, I've resigned myself to the fact that the people I watch on TV aren't always the best people, and I just want to see good matches, and hopefully she does okay, and hopefully she's learned a lesson and she makes a better use of the opportunity she's being given.
So Dave and I talked about this on Wrestling Observer Radio. My thought on this is she needs to say something, and she needs to proactively do something. She needs to show her work a little bit to say, hey, I was an idiot, and I've learned a lot about people. And as I said that, Dave reminded me, and he goes, well, she kind of left CMLL without dropping the title. So I'm not like, it was kind of like, what did she, as far as being a professional, like, I don't, what did she really learn? But I'm hopeful, because I am not of the opinion that people need to carry the weight of things that they did when they were younger for the rest of their lives. Like, you can actually come back from that stuff. You could actually improve your life. You can become a better person. So that is what I am hopeful for her, because she's so talented. And if she does turn a corner, and the other comparison that I made is that she, we can go back to the Briscoes, right? Before Jay passed, I think everyone had forgiven him for some of the things that he said. And he kind of got out in front, and he showed his work, and he said, hey, I was wrong back then.
Yeah.
I get it now. And,
and he did so much stuff behind the scenes as well that people didn't even know about. So that's like what you're talking about with Tessa. That's what Jay did, and that's what she needs to do.
Yes, she does. Yeah. But what it also showed me is that this fan base, which is going to be really hard, and rightfully so, on that stuff, they also will accept when people do take responsibility, and they will accept when they do say, hey, I'm going to do better, and I can do better. And I think Jay Briscoe is the perfect example of that before he passed away.
I will say, though, that I think it's harder for a woman, unfortunately.
It might be.
Yeah. It shouldn't be, but it feels like it would be. Because I think women have, like, automatically there's going to be a certain segment that's going to be against them no matter what. And then when you've got someone that's perceived as being, what she's being perceived as, then that's even, it's like you're fighting a real uphill battle. So she's got a lot of work to do. And TNA is the good place to be right now. Like, I don't think AEW or WWE, well, especially AEW, I think they'd eat her alive. And at least right now, WWE might be a little bit easier because a lot of their fans probably don't even know about it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they don't.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Saturday night's main event. I am interested. I was asking folks in the Discord the other day about what their favorite memories were. How did you, were you watching Saturday night's main event when it came on? Like, what was your experience with that show?
So this is kind of funny. Like, when did it debut? I know you did some research recently. Was that 85?
1985. Yeah, it was like 2 months after, or like a month or two after the very first WrestleMania.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so actually, I used to watch SNL. Like, I've watched SNL as long as I can remember. And and I probably started watching in around 1980. So it was actually the bad version of SNL. And then in 85 or late 84, early 85, they brought in, I think, the new cast with like Billy Crystal and Christopher Guest and all that. And it was like hot, and it was the show to watch. So I watched it every week, and I would just set my VCR to record SNL or record NBC at 10:30 my time, 30 to 12. Well, one week it's not SNL, it's WWF. And I was like, we didn't get WWF here. I hadn't seen WrestleMania, but I did see Hulk and Mr. T on SNL, obviously a couple months earlier, and we couldn't watch WrestleMania here. Like, there was just no way to watch it. I don't even think they had closed circuit. We had it by WrestleMania 2. So I watched it, and I grew up as a wrestling fan. I watched the AWA, and this was so much better than the AWA. And it's a lot of guys I knew. I knew Mean Gene, I knew Hulk, I knew, Bobby Heenan, like there's a lot of the people I was familiar with. So it was like, oh man, this is awesome. And then it was probably within about 6 months of that, or a year maybe. It's right around WrestleMania 2 when we started getting the syndicated stuff. Saturday morning, and we got it from Detroit. We had because we have the American channels come over, and so I would set my VCR 10 o'clock every morning, WWF Superstars, and then and watch. So I watched all the Saturday Night's Main Events, I assume. Well, I've watched them all now for sure, but yeah, I mean, it was a big part of how I became a fan of WWF. Like, it was literally my first exposure to the company.
I told John a story. I think I told John. I mean, it may have been on Observe This that I do with Draven, but 1989, it would have been sometime in the fall. It's Ultimate Warrior against Andre the Giant is the promoted match. And I remember we had something going on that night, and I was really tired, and I told my mom, I was like, "Hey mom, if you're still up by 11:30, wake me up. I'm just going to fall asleep for like an hour, like I'm really tired." And she forgot to wake me up. So I'd never seen that episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, and I just recently watched it not too long ago. Not that it was a good episode or anything, but that's how dialed into Saturday Night's Main Event I was. And the way that I knew that it was coming on is I would so we would get the newspaper, and the Sunday newspaper had the TV guide. And so you'd get the TV guide, and it had all the shows that were on for the week. And the first thing I would do every week is immediately go to Saturday to see what was going on. And so most of the time, 80% of the time it's SNL. It's like, okay, another week. Okay, another week. And then that one magical week where Saturday Night's Main Event is on, and you're like, okay. And so you just looked forward to it for the entire week from Sunday to Saturday. It was really kind of like one of the things, and I'm a sports fan. So you got all these sports
so the funny
events,
thing, I didn't even know. I would pop in my tape and expect to watch SNL, and it's wrestling this week. Cool. So
I remember the one time the TV guide screwed me was you were a little old at this point, but
I was like, 85, I was 14.
Okay, but still a little bit older for the rock and wrestling cartoon. Like, you would have thought that was the stupidest thing in the world.
Well, we didn't get it, so I mean, I like the videos, the ones that they did, like with the Goonies, and there's a couple of them, the Land of a Thousand Dances.
But this is a cartoon, like a literal cartoon. So it only lasted like, I don't know, a couple seasons, and I was ripping through the TV guide one day. And it was like a weekday, in the TV guide, it said that there was a Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling special that was just randomly in the thing. And so I was like, why is it on this day? I don't really believe it. But still, I was like, I just have to check. And I had to set my VCR, and then I come home and it's like normal Tom and Jerry or whatever. I was so mad. So I got the psych out by the TV guide. But yeah, that's kind of how I knew. And so, I don't think I watched, I may have watched the first 2 or 3 at some point, like, I don't know if a friend had taped them, so and then I could watch them, but I didn't watch those live. But by February 1986, which I think may have been the 5th show, it's Hulk Hogan and Don Morocco. And nowadays, if I saw what I saw then, I would go, "Oh, angle alert, something's happening." Mr. Fuji, who was Morocco's manager, is sick. And they have him like on the video of like being sick and having his temperature taken and whatever. And like, "Oh, you can't go out to the ring." So Bobby the Brain Heenan is actually managing the Man Gifts of Morocco in this match, which means King Kong Bundy attacks Hogan, and the whole thing is a setup. And they stretcher Hogan out, and he's convulsing and everything.
Yeah.
And then on the next TVs, it's like, "Oh, you can write a letter to Hulk Hogan." And thankfully, I was not dumb enough to do that. But that moment, that Saturday night's main event, hooked me as a wrestling fan. I had seen stuff before. I had seen WrestleMania 1 like a little bit after the fact. I'd seen the Road Warriors on Crockett, and I was like, wow, those guys look really interesting. But it was this thing that hooked me, which was Hulk Hogan just getting destroyed right before WrestleMania 2. And seeing WrestleMania 2 almost in the real time. I think I had to wait a few days for a friend to let me borrow a tape, but just watching that whole build of that show and being so excited, them working with the NFL, British Bulldogs are on fire at this point. Like that event, the event and the build up to that event was way better than the event itself. Like if you go back and rewatch WrestleMania 2, it's actually not good, but they were trying really hard to make the event as big as possible. And Saturday night's main event is part of that whole thing. And it was, I think we all have like a little bit of romanticism about it because we never got to see good wrestling matches on TV generally. But at the same time, I think sometimes people underrate how important that show was in showing people what a real professional out of the darkened arenas kind of event looked like. Not a lot of people, at least nationwide, would have been able to watch the Von Erich stuff very easily, which, they were ahead of the game. But this stuff was, I mean, you could put it on NBC, and Dick Ebersol's like, yeah, let's do this. Like, that's a really big deal. And so I still think it's probably a little bit underrated as far as how much it helped WWE become as mainstream as it did.
Yeah, for me, my favorite memories of Saturday Night's Main Event was a little bit later on, and they're tied in together. And so when I'm watching like wrestling every Saturday, I'm hooked by this point. It's like early '87. My favorite wrestler, even though he was a heel, was Randy Savage. And as I'm watching, I'm starting to pay attention, and it sounds like the fans are starting to cheer him, even though he's a heel, even though he treats Elizabeth like garbage. The fans are cheering him, and all of a sudden, if you're really paying attention, he goes from wrestling Sam Houston and, like they had babyface jobbers, like that you saw that face the heels all the time. All of a sudden, he's facing Barry Horowitz, and he's facing the Brooklyn Brawler, and he's facing like Mike Sharp. And it's like, wait a minute. Okay. And now the fans are cheering him louder. And it's like in your mind, you're thinking, oh, the fans are cheering the bad guy. But in actuality, they were setting him up for the babyface turn. So on Saturday Night's Main Event, it was Hulk, or it was Randy, and he was in a match with, I think it was the Honky Tonk Man, and defending the Intercontinental, or he was going for the Intercontinental title because Honky had won it. And then Honky got disqualified. The Hart Foundation came in because they were stablemates, and they were beating on Randy. And Elizabeth goes to the back, and she comes back with Hulk Hogan. And it's like, I didn't even like Hulk at the time, but I was cheering because, oh, he's going to be in the main event now, and he's going to be like this, superstar. He's getting elevated. So that's why I was cheering for. I wasn't cheering for Hulk. I was cheering for Randy.
Yeah.
And then fast forward about 18 months, and this is literally, it was the day after my 18th birthday, February 3rd, 1989. And I had plans to go out and celebrate my birthday with a bunch of friends, but I couldn't leave until I watched the main event. It was a Friday night. It was the day, once a year, they had Friday night main event, right? and this was the big tag match, and it was Hulk and Randy against the Twin Towers.
Yep.
And this is where they did the breakup.
Yep.
So I missed my birthday celebration to see this, and it was worth it. I got to see the breakup, and I was 100% Team Randy. Like, you got lust in your eyes, brother. And
what about Hogan's acting throughout that whole thing?
Oh
so God, bad. Please, Elizabeth. He didn't mean to do it. Like, I just like how he was blaming Macho the whole time. He didn't
and looking
mean
at the
it.
camera. Oh, is it my cue yet? Like, yeah. So I was, and then that led to a big money program and WrestleMania 5 that Chris Jericho and I were watching in the same building. Not together, but
have you ever heard the story of how Dave ruined the twin Hepners angle for me?
No.
Okay, so this is February of '88, so the year before, and I am so I would be like 11, and in the newspaper. So this is it's on Friday night, the day of the match. I'm reading, I think it's in the sports page, and I think it's a journalist by the name of Mark Purdy. He has the finish of the match.
Oh, because it was taped.
No, it was live.
Oh, okay.
He's got the finish. And so I go to school that day, and I'm telling everybody what's going to happen. And then I watch it, and then that happens. Like, I'm still nervous because it was kind of like I'd never seen Hogan lose ever in my wrestling childhood. So I was like, is he really going to lose? Like, what is that going to feel like? And I remember my dad going like, why are you upset? You knew what was going to happen. And it was one of those, yeah, but still moments.
And you were a Hogan fan at that point,
right? I was deep.
Yeah, I was like so happy when he lost. Oh my God.
Deep into the Hogan lore. So fast forward, and Dave had posted in the Observer. He had posted as a for some reason he had the 1988 story on this somewhere in a file, and they just posted it in the archives on the website. This is probably like 5 or 6 years ago. So I read that issue, and then I asked him, and I was like, so you're the one who gave the story to Mark Purdy? And he doesn't really remember, but when I go back and I read the issues in February, it is very clear that Dave knew what was going to happen. And it is very clear that he told or
maybe Mark was a subscriber.
He very well may have been. Yeah. But yeah, so Dave Meltzer, but by Monday at school.
Oh yeah, you're like a legend.
I was the man because I knew everything that was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I had a buddy with a satellite dish, so we used to get the pay-per-views before anybody could. You have to wait a month to get them at Blockbuster, and we would have copies of them. So I was like the most popular guy around for a couple of years.
Oh yeah. All right, so there's your Saturday night's main event history and lore and all that from our childhood. But what do you think about this card?
I think it's stacked.
People listen to this on Saturday, so later.
Yeah, we've talked about this, and I know you look for different things in wrestling, in shows than I do. But for me, I think this is on the level. It's more like probably like a B level PLE than that was
Dave's. Yeah, that's Dave's thought about the shows.
Oh, I didn't even know. I haven't listened to the show yet. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's you've got like world title matches. You've got a super grudge match. I mean, that's been built up for 2 weeks, but like Drew and Sammy, and KO and Kevin Owens. Like honestly, right now is like, in the matches that are signed, this is like the one I'm most looking forward to, like of anything, because the build has been so great, including tonight. Not as good as last week, but it was pretty good. So I'm really looking forward to that. Again, the results are pretty much foregone conclusion, especially when you consider the fact that they tape next week's SmackDown tonight. Yeah. So, like I don't think Cody's losing that title. So yeah.
Okay. What makes the show for me is it's not going to be the match. The matches are going to be fine. They're going to be, they're all strong wrestling matches, save for maybe Chelsea and Michin, which is the finals of the U.S. tournament. I still think it'll still be fine. Yeah. But if you're looking at from the work rate level maybe Liv and Io. I like both of them, so I'm hoping that they have a
Io
good
never
showing.
has a bad match, so that'll be good.
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to see any newsworthy upsets. I don't think we're going to see any title changes. And if it happens, then it happens, and I will, commend them for doing something like that if it makes sense. But what I think needs to happen is you have to have moments coming out of this show
Yeah.
that make people go, "Oh, I got to tune in next time because," and I'll just give an example. I don't know that this is happening. Dave teased it could possibly happen. What if Charlotte shows up on this show, as a return? Like that would be kind
I
of
got a
fun.
different name.
Who's the name?
I mentioned this when this show was first announced. Becky.
Becky. Yeah,
I would have
Becky
Becky
shows up.
show up and challenge Liv after she beats Io because Liv's the one that put Becky out. So that would make sense.
Yeah, no, those would be really good.
And then they book a match for Netflix.
Okay, can I tell you though, the thing that hurts this match, hurts this show a little bit for me is no Roman. Like I sort of feel like he's the big dog, and
he can't work 2 nights in a row.
I would have saved that video for him in Solo, which they announced for Netflix. That was the other thing that came out of the SmackDown thing is him and Solo.
You know what? That you're right. That totally should have been on tomorrow's show. And maybe even a live confrontation. Like something. Yeah. That's a very good point.
So it'll be interesting because they're going to be able to go to this nostalgia thing once, I think.
Yeah. You got Jesse there, and the music. I mean, they could keep the music, I suppose.
Yeah. But I'm just saying you can only promote the show as nostalgia for one time. This is their one time. And so maybe they do get away with not really putting a big show. But in January 25th, they're going to have to do some stuff to show that this is better than a Raw and a SmackDown.
You need to have important stuff happen on that show, or at least the promise of important stuff. And in order for people to believe you, you have to do something on this show to show, hey, this isn't just a throwaway show. This is, you watch the Saturday. This is going to be the Saturday or the Friday before the Saturday before the Royal Rumble, right? So, I mean, I had the idea of throwing a Royal Rumble match on there, and a lot of people gave me a lot of good reasons why that wasn't a good idea. I think there's pluses and minuses, and maybe the minuses outweigh the positives, but you want to have important stuff happening on that show. Maybe, maybe you set up a world title match for the Royal Rumble on that show somehow. Or maybe you have a world title match on that show because you don't need it for the Royal Rumble card.
Yeah.
You could do that,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All
right, so let's quickly talk about these matches again. By the time people listen to this, the show will be coming up, so some of this may be old. But Cody and Kevin, the story is really good. The brawls have been really good. I know that KO's character of not coming into the building or whatever is entertaining, and I think it's going to be good. But if Cody wins, then what do you do with KO?
Depends how he wins, I suppose, and what you do afterwards. I think there's something coming up with Sammy, so it's possible he gets transferred over to Raw after he loses, maybe in this transfer portal.
The transfer portal. I love it.
Yeah, I could see. That's what I think you do with KO. You transfer.
When the transfer portal died for me a little bit is San Jose State. It's had some solid years of late, and they had another good year. They're going to play in a bowl game in a couple weeks or whatever. Their punter wrote a post saying, "Thank you, San Jose State University. I really enjoyed my time. I'm going to go into the transfer portal because it's going to be better for my career." The punter is making a social media post about going into the transfer portal. Come on, man.
Come on, man. Yeah. I don't really follow it. All I know is that every once in a while somebody's on a different team, so it's like real sports.
Yeah. So Maria says,
"Oh, I like
RKO returns."
Yeah, I could see
that's another. That could be another return for Saturday night's main event. Plus,
or maybe he goes after Cody.
Well, And Randy's dad's in the main event of the very first Saturday Night's main event.
Oh yeah, didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and we got well, I don't know if you're going to get to it in your preview, but we got a bunch of old timers coming back. Maybe they'll announce, maybe he'll be there. Bob.
You know what? I think what did we saw Coco, we saw Tito,
Greg Valentine.
I guess
DiBiase was on there,
DiBiase
but then he
pulled
said
out, right?
Yeah. He should have pulled out before he had never mind.
Well, yeah, I was thinking like maybe he thinks he's gonna get heat from the Brett Favre thing. Like
maybe I doubt he would, but you never know. Better safe than sorry.
Or
I
maybe-
like, what those names? I haven't seen any of those guys in a long time, so I'm kind of that's kind of cool.
Okay, what do you
usually
think
the
of what do you
same old
think about-
guys?
Yeah, what do you think about Jesse as a commentator at this point?
I don't know. I the last time he was on, if I'm remembering correctly, he clearly hadn't watched the product. And
Can't imagine he's watching now.
No, and all he did was talk about McMahon and Hogan, and he can't do either of those things.
He hates both of those guys.
Yeah, but he can't talk about them on the show. So I can't imagine Hogan's gonna be there. Like if he was, they would have announced it, and I don't think they should bring him in. So yeah, so I it'd be fun to see him, but I'm not expecting anything. So if he delivers anything, I'll be pleased.
He's teasing that he's going to be unfiltered, that they're not telling him what to say. And I'm like, come on, dude, this thing's on NBC in prime time.
Well, if he mentions Vince's name, then he's telling the truth, and if he doesn't, then he's lying, because he's going to want to talk about Vince, and he's not going to be able to. So
yeah.
That's it.
I think it's going to be fun. I think I heard him talk on the Bill Simmons podcast. He's still got the gift of gab. He's
good.
But he's 73 years old, so he's not as quick, obviously. But I think
he still has the voice, like it still sounds the same.
Still sounds exactly the same.
Good, good.
He's not passionate at all about wrestling, but this brother is passionate about politics right now. I'm surprised he didn't get back in that game.
I'd heard rumors.
He cut quite the promo on Donald Trump on that Simmons podcast, so it was very interesting to hear. He's a smart guy. Like I'm not, he's not, from a wrestling perspective, I think he has held up his end of the bargain as like a representation of wrestling very well and better than most, I would say.
What has more prior? Oh, I guess we saw the preview. What are you more? Is your priority Saturday Night's Main Event or Collision tomorrow?
Collision's not taping for me for some reason. Last week I got the Lord of the Rings instead of Collision. The week before I had like 15 minutes of something else before Collision started. It's weird, like funky. I don't know.
And then tomorrow you don't even know when it's gonna be on because it's after the NBA.
The basketball game. The basketball game.
I watch it on Triller, so I still haven't watched last week, so I will watch it. But Saturday Night's Main Event I'll watch tomorrow.
The NBA Cup is the baby Atlanta Hawks young team against Giannis and the Bucks.
Hey, Kilo Cash team
is a good story. Is a good is a very good like up and coming like team. The story. You don't have the Lakers and the Warriors, then you might as well have some of these younger teams get in there.
Who's on the other side?
Oklahoma City. And I can't remember who's on the other
watched
side. The Rockets, Oklahoma City and the Rockets.
Well, that'll be good.
So
that'll be really good game.
Yeah. So the Atlanta Bucks game is on TNT, and then the other game I think is actually going head to head on ABC with Saturday Night's Main Event
and Collision.
Well, we'll see whenever Collision begins, because it could. I mean, if the basketball game is only 2.5 hours, so it may start earlier than normal.
Wasn't there was one time where they were supposed to go after the basketball game, but they had like a half hour of dead time, and by the time the thing was over, there's like nobody watching.
Well, the thing is that when you have the Shaq and Kenny and Chuck show, that's something that the NBA fans want to stick around for. So if you can't eliminate that show and then go immediately to the wrestling, because the NBA fans are going to be very mad that they didn't get Kenny, Chuck.
I remember it was like the show in Jacksonville, and they were like just literally waiting. Like you had the crowd was there, and they were ready to watch the show, and you couldn't watch it until Shaq and Chuck were done. And it ended up not doing as well as they should have done. So I think they're opening with Fletcher and Briscoe on this one. So, and it's taped, I think.
Yes,
Well, no,
it was
it
taped
is
Thursday.
taped. So
Taped Thursday.
yeah, so they'll start hot. So that'll be good.
All right, Gunther, Priest, and Finn Balor in a triple threat.
Yeah.
I hate these triple threat matches.
Yeah, I didn't like the way they just shoehorned Priest into it, even though it was obvious that's what they were doing when that segment started. So it feels like it's just a way to avoid beating Priest.
That's what it sounds like to me too.
Yeah,
I would love to see them go all in with an NBA. I'm sorry, I was reading a tweet,
yeah, I saw that too.
a comment. I would love to see them go all in on a babyface Damian Priest. I want to just see it happen to see if the crowd responds to him. Like they haven't even had to go all the way with Jey Uso, and you see how the crowd responds to Jey Uso. And we saw that stat from WrestleNomics that he's got the best-selling T-shirt game in the company with Roman Reigns and CM Punk, which is amazing.
And yeah, like I think if you're going to do that, maybe he gets cheated out of this and then he wins the Royal Rumble. Maybe that's if they're going to go all the way with him. Now's his time. And he's talked about the Royal Rumble before. That's a goal of his, is to win the Royal Rumble. So
I think you have a unique window with Damian Priest. And I think the fans are waiting to see, is he real or is he like, we talk about baseball, you have these prospects and it's like, is this a pro player or is this like a quadruple A player who's just never going to be good in the pros? Not Priest is already better, but is he good enough to win the big title and to be a champion, or is he a level below? Because I think if the fans believe that he is that guy, I think they will buy in as a babyface. But if he still keeps falling and stumbling, I'm not sure that they're going to stick with him.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. And then he's also, like you talk about as a prospect, but well, I mean, you were just making that comparison, but I mean, he's not young. So I mean, he's definitely he's older than he looks.
He's not older. He's not overly exposed, but he is in his upper 30s, I think.
I think he's like in his mid 40s.
Mid? You think mid?
I believe so. I'll look it up.
All right.
While you're going to the next match.
Liv Morgan against Io Sky. I don't think Io Sky is winning, and you already suggested why she should not
42.
Win. Okay.
42. Yeah.
That's not terrible.
No.
Yeah, I think Liv should win this match too. It's probably going to hopefully
angle alert.
Hopefully Io has an out, right? Hopefully he's got an out, or she's got an out to not look like a dumb baby face, and she's so good. Another one who you kind of wonder if they'll ever go all the way with, because I think the fans see her and they're like, is it real? I'm not so sure it's real, but if it is, then I might explode for her. That's another one. I mean, it's a good thing to have, though. It's a good position for them to be in.
Yeah, her and Bianca have such great chemistry together. So, whenever I see those two together, I come away thinking, like, obviously Bianca's great, but they should be doing more with Io. I think this one. I mean, I think Charlotte or Becky, perhaps. I mean, there's also Asuka. I don't know when she's ready to come back, but she's got, she's with Io as part of that Damage Control group. So
what if Jade Cargill just comes out with a neck brace? And have you seen I don't remember what Fast and Furious movie. It might be like Fast 6 or Fast 7. But basically the Rock's character, he's got like a broken arm for like the whole movie, so he can't really do anything. And when he needs to get called into action, he just looks at the cast and he just breaks the cast off like that. What if Jade Cargill comes out with the neck brace and she just breaks the neck brace up? No, I think I would assume that she's really injured.
Either she is, or either way, she's gonna be out for a while. But after tonight, it was pretty clear, I think, that Naomi or Bianca were the ones that took her out, because Naomi just kind of took her tag team title.
She moved into the spot.
All
right, and then the U.S. Championship Tournament Finals, Chelsea Green and Michin. I hope Chelsea wins. I like Michin as well, but I think the fans are just waiting to pop hard for Chelsea.
I'd be okay with either one, but if I had to my heart says Chelsea. So, but I would not be upset at all if Mishin won. So I'm just looking forward. I hope they have a good match. I hope they surprise some people, and I hope that this belt is not. I mean, right away when you put it on Chelsea or Mishin, the perception is going to be, well, this is an undercard belt, and hopefully that's not what it is. But I have a feeling that might be what it is.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre,
Chelsea Green.
Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn. That's another one. We keep saying this.
Yeah.
The second they want Sami Zayn to get that Mankind title win is going to be an amazing moment.
Mm-hmm. But this is not his moment.
No, this is not it.
Yeah.
I do hope to see it one day, though.
He's a stepping stone on the way to, I assume, Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and was it Drew and Seth on Netflix? Is that what you said in the?
No, Seth and Punk.
Seth and Punk. Oh wow.
Netflix
Okay.
match.
Okay.
That Punk and Roman and Solo in that tribal whatever match.
Yeah. So Drew will probably have something to do with that Seth Punk thing, unless he ends up on SmackDown. You know what? You got Drew in the same building as Cody and KO. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
If Drew is moving to SmackDown, which I think a lot of people expect, that could be a future challenger for Cody. So.
Okay, we already talked about the Continental Classic, so we don't have to circle back there. But I do want to go back to one AEW topic, which is Jon Moxley put himself in a 4-way, which I think some people are saying now, why would the heel want to make himself in a 4-way? By the way, a babyface should never put himself in a 4-way when he's champion either. But what it told me is it was almost like, I'm not scared of you bumbling idiots. Of course you guys are going to screw each other, because it just came after OC looked like he was going to win the match. Paige comes in, screws that up. Jay White comes in, screws that up. And then they all end up fighting. And I think White actually did take out Mox at the end there. But I guess that's the story, is you bumbling baby faces, you're just going to end up fighting each other, and I'm going to win because of it.
Jay White is the guy that earned this title shot. He beat Hangman twice. He is the one guy that Mox hasn't really gotten the better of. So Mox's choices are, well, I can defend one-on-one against this guy who might beat me, or I can throw in this guy that I killed on the last pay-per-view, or the other guy who Jay White beat twice and who I know is going to do everything he can to make sure Jay White doesn't beat me. Yeah, I think I like my odds better with these three idiots.
That's how I saw it. That's definitely how I saw it.
No, Moxie's not a dummy.
You know what, though? I did kind of want to see that Jay White Moxley match.
I think I totally want just a one-on-one. And then you've also got Christian hanging around, for teasing a cash in. So
okay, so Dave asked me this question. I'd be interested in your answer.
Okay.
He said, if Christian went to WWE today, would he be in the main event picture?
No way.
And I said, no, he would not be promoted in the main event picture.
Yeah.
But he might maneuver himself into the main event picture at some point, just because he's such a political badass.
That's so hard, though. There's so many top guys there that I just feel like and those guys are as smart or smarter than Christian.
What if all of a sudden Cody was like, who was my favorite wrestler when I was growing up? Christian. Everyone says, why is Christian everyone's favorite wrestler?
Because he outworks everyone. Yeah, he's in more ways than one. Yeah. No, I like Christian. But he's not. I don't want to get into Christian.
Okay. Here's a question, because I hate the cash-in thing. I think know how much I hate it on the WWE side. I wonder if it was just given to Christian so that it got more heel heat, because it is the antithesis of what the AEW fans like.
Maybe it's possible. I actually think the reason that he got it is basically just to be holding there until Adam Copeland is ready to come back. And then, and then at that point, he's going to screw Christian. And that's, that's the payoff to this whole thing, is my guess, because that seems like something Tony would want to do. And it definitely seems like something Christian and Copeland would want to do. So,
Okay, now I agree with you. However, these guys need to get a run together.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd be really worried about losing that opportunity because of injuries, because these guys are a little bit older. Maybe someone could just tell, Copeland not to jump off a cage, like, duh. Like, poor Brunson Reed and Jimmy Uso both got hurt as well. But I want to see them together more than I want to see them fighting each other again. I just don't know exactly the right way to get there at this point.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know either, and I don't necessarily need to see them together as much as you do, but I do know that a lot of people do want to see that, and I actually think there's some money in it, especially if they culminate in a big match in Toronto.
We were told, or at least it was alluded to in the beginning of time for AEW, that the tag titles could be a main event match on a big show. Right?
Oh, so private party? Yeah, okay.
No, I know what you mean. If we can,
the match is the Bucks. The match is the Bucks.
If we can reheat the Bucks, that could be a main event of a pay-per-view.
Yeah, turn them again. I mean, I suppose maybe, okay, here's the thing. Here's what might happen. Copeland shows up and everyone, oh yeah, he's going to screw Christian, and he attacks Moxley instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then Christian goes to cash in, and maybe he doesn't, maybe he fails because it's Christian, right? But then that sets up Copeland and Moxley for a feud. Because
I would like to see that match.
Yeah, I don't think, like, I don't see Christian ever holding the AEW World Title. I suppose it's possible, but
it is like Tony Khan's favorite wrestler or something. Though,
it is. And maybe Copeland's just a heater for Christian. That would be interesting. I mean, we've never seen that. So maybe we're gonna get a swerve. And then, we get, and when the Bucks come back, supposedly they're going to be baby faces, which I don't understand. But and then if you got Copeland and Christian on the heel side, and I do think that match, at least at first, works better with Christian and Copeland as heels, and then you can have them baby face and then retire as baby faces down the road.
Yeah. All right. So let's end the show with our last topic here, and I'm going to surprise you, because I want to talk a little bit about New Japan.
Oh.
Zack Sabre Jr. wins the Tokyo Sports MVP. Only the second non-Japanese wrestler to win it. Do you remember who the first was?
Yeah, Bob Sapp, 2002.
Bob Sapp.
Yeah.
Zack Sabre Jr. I think he apologized to Bob Sapp for Bob Sapp not still being able to be the only one. He's which was fun.
I mean, if I didn't know that, I would have probably assumed Kenny Omega or maybe even Brock Lesnar at some point, but that was just one of those random facts I knew.
All right, so we have Wrestle Kingdom coming up in like less than a month, right? That's
like
coming
3 weeks.
fast.
Yeah.
And the night after that is the Wrestle Dynasty show, which is the mixed AEW show. However, I was looking at the Observer, and Dave was saying how there's a lot of guys not booked for that show who you would think would be pretty perfect for that Dynasty show, like Will Ospreay and Okada and guys like that. Now, some of that may be just because they need to tie up loose ends with the Continental Classic before that they can be booked on that show. But he also said that, the next television.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a Collision airing the same day. So they need some wrestlers for that.
But then you have Dynamite, a few days later. I would imagine making Dynamite would be no problem.
No. Yeah, but
for that
Collision, you got to have some people there for Collision.
So you have these two shows. I feel I'm going to watch Wrestle Kingdom anyways, but I think there's only been one Wrestle Kingdom in the last 5 years that I did not watch live. And I think this one is is it on a Friday night?
Yeah, I mean the 4th is the 4th. No, Saturday, Sunday. So, but Friday night, Saturday morning. Yeah.
Okay. So that show, I will probably decide to watch the next day. But the Wrestle Dynasty show, if it is a good show, I think I will watch it live, because I think it's like, it may not be like a 5 o'clock show on the West
it's probably
Coast.
like 1 a.m. It probably starts your time.
But no. I think Wrestle Dynasty is like 8:00 or something.
Oh, really?
My time, yeah, I
Oh,
think.
wow. So 10 o'clock my time. So I could watch it live too if I wanted to.
So if that is the case, I'll be able to watch that show live. But
Ah,
I want it to be good though. Like I just feel I have this sense that New Japan is probably doing the things that they need to do in order to grow this young talent. And as we know, when you grow young talent, it takes a while for them to all kind of take off. That show feels flat to me. And the Wrestle Dynasty show feels flat to me as well. If the main event is Zack Sabre Jr. versus this version of Ricochet that we're seeing on television, which
ugh.
is a very mid-card version of Ricochet. I don't sense it, and
Well,
I said
you
this.
do have Kenny Omega on that show, so
Yeah, well,
that is
that
something.
is that is definitely something. I think
Yeah.
Siri answered me for
Oh,
something. I don't know. I said pop Siri
yeah.
something.
Man, what a weekend! You got you got Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Dynasty, then you got Raw on Netflix the next day.
The
Then you
next
got
day.
yeah, and then you got the NXT New Year's Evil. Like wow, oh my god. Uh,
And then I think the next weekend is that Battle in the Valley
yeah,
show.
yeah.
JJ from this website just hit me up, and I think he's going to try and make it.
Oh, nice.
And then the next Monday is the second Netflix Raw ever in San
In
Jose.
San Jose. So you got New Japan and WWE in like 2 days apart.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And then you got Royal Rumble right 3 weeks away after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow, I mean, it's gonna be insane. I mean, every weekend's insane, but at least
All
I
right.
got a month off of UFC.
But you're watching the New Japan shows. So I wanted to run this card
Yeah.
by you,
Okay.
and you
Yep.
tell me what you think about at least Wrestle Kingdom. The Wrestle
Rest
Dynasty show is not,
okay.
it doesn't have all the matches yet. So okay. Kushida and Kevin Knight defending their IWGP Junior tags against Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita.
It'll be all right. I mean, it could be kind of a show stealer, but they're probably only getting about 10 minutes. So
My most hated wrestler, TJP, and Akira, and Clark Connors, and Drilla Maloney. TJP and Akira. Dave, the way that Dave wrote this is weird. I'm
so
assuming
that's tag team match.
they're facing Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney.
No belt, right? Like neither one of those teams are champion.
I don't think so.
That match could be really good. That match, even if they only get 10 minutes, Drilla and Connor and Drilla, they're like my favorite team in New Japan right now. I love those guys.
Maya Iwatani defends her IWGP Women's title against Azumi. Is that it? How we pronounce
Yeah,
it? Azumi?
AZM,
Mhm.
Azumi, yeah, that'll be great.
Okay.
Although
Are
again,
they going to give it time?
No, they only get like 10 minutes. So
Ren Narita against Jeff Cobb and Oiwa. Is that a three-way?
Ryohei, yeah, it's 3-way for the TV title. Oiwa's great. I just I'm watching the New Japan Tag League and he's tagging with Zach, and every match they had was like 4 stars or better. Ren Narita sucks, so that's gonna bring it down. But Cobb
and there's gonna be interference like crazy in that match.
Yeah, because it's 3-way and there's no DQs.
Mhm.
Cobb and Oiwa though are great, obviously. So that could be fun. And yeah, and Cobb's got the match the next night, so Oiwa could win the title here. I'm thinking maybe.
Tanahashi versus Evil.
Oh God, that's it. To go to the bathroom.
Shingo defends his never title against Takeshita. That will be awesome.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. And Takeshita easily could win because the winner's going to defend the next night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Dookie defends against Desperado.
A lot of like hardcore New Japan fans are really geeked up for this match, and I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't really care about either of those guys. But I usually am surprised, so I'll go in not expecting much and probably be blown away.
And Finlay defends against Yota Tsuji, his global title.
Tsuji's my guy. Love that match, but it'll be excellent. But Finlay's going to retain for sure.
You know who I was thinking about Tsuji and that smile that he has. And I was thinking about who does that smile remind me?
Oh,
of?
It's 2014 Roman Reigns.
That's
exactly who he is.
Okay, so my comparison is gonna be way different than yours.
Oh, okay.
My stepdaughter, she was in an Alice in Wonderland play, And so she was in dual roles. She had to play Alice's sister, and then she had to go in the back and make a quick costume change. And then she was also the Cheshire Cat. Yoda
Oh,
Tsuji reminds me of the Cheshire Cat.
okay. Yeah. I literally just watched when on Wednesday when I was getting ready to watch Dynamite. I always start a half hour in, and so I'm flicking through the channels, and the WWE Network, it's a channel here, was airing Takeover Revolution from 2014, and they did a backstage interview with Roman Reigns, and he
Why
had
was
just
Roman Reigns there?
because it's going to be a great show. That was literally his answer. Like, that was Renee's question. Why are you here? And he said, oh, it's going to be an awesome show. So, okay. And how do you feel about being elected Superstar of the Year? And
wow.
he does this thing. I'm honored. Blah, blah, blah. And it was just the most vanilla baby face. Just, yeah. But I mean, I'm looking at this guy and God, it's Yoda Tsuji. Like, it's incredible. And they wrestle the same. They're both ex-football players. Tsuji, if he ever decides to go to WWE, I think could actually be something in WWE like 5 years down the road, especially if they decide we're not going to book him like we book every other Japanese wrestler we've ever had.
So what would that have been? What month was that?
December. It was literally the 10-year anniversary. So it was December 11th,
so
2014.
that would have been WrestleMania 30 then. After WrestleMania 30, they were just in like a 6-man for that show, weren't they?
No. He didn't he? Oh no, I'm thinking of 16. I don't remember I don't remember 30.
So I think they were.
Oh yeah. Was it the Wyatts?
I want to say it was like Kane and.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but so my question is, why was he Superstar of the Year? Because he he wasn't in the main event at WrestleMania until the following year.
Probably because he won the world title. I'm assuming. I don't know. I don't remember.
Did he win it?
When
did he?
I have no idea. I just he was Superstar of the Year.
I know that the next year is when he threw out all the people in the Royal Rumble and people liked him a lot.
Yeah.
And then they tried to repeat that the next year, I think
16, and that's the when they got booed and The Rock and everything, right? You want the reason he won is because Vince decided he was going to be John Cena, and so
actually
they worked a poll.
You know what? I think I got my dates mixed. I think that year, 2014, is when he got all the cheers for throwing people over the top.
Oh, okay.
Then he won the next year, and that's when he got booed, and that's when The Rock had to come
2015.
in.
Okay.
And save him.
And then 2016, he was already like the top babyface that nobody liked.
And Triple H won the Royal Rumble
and faced him
and won the title in the Royal Rumble that year.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, he's there, and the main event that was I saw it was Kenta and Finn Balor versus the Ascension was the match I watched. But the main event of that show is going to be Sammy defending against or challenging Adrian Neville for the title, Pac.
Oh wow!
And he won, and then I think Kevin Steen.
That's when he came in and gave him the apron and all that stuff. That was a great angle. I remember that angle.
Yeah, it was a good show too. Like and Sasha and Charlotte was on that show too. So yeah, it was a really good show to go back and watch. 10 years ago this week.
And Charlotte. So that would have been like 3 months before or 4 months before that takeover house show in San Jose, which sold Vince on women's wrestling, supposedly.
Yeah. For the WWE or for the NXT Women's Championship, and everyone cheered even though they didn't know what the match was going to be.
Yeah. Okay. And then Naito versus Hiromu is the semi.
Yeah, that's special. I don't really know what to expect there. Naito can still pull out a good match, and Hiromu's gonna be motivated, so this might surprise some people. But Naito's also taking time off for surgery, so Hiromu probably wins this one.
And then the main event: Zack Sabre Jr. versus Shota Umino.
Yeah, I'm not feeling this one like at all. Shota's been good, like real good. I mean, he's they tag him up with Hanma. Like Tomoyaka Hanma in the tag league, and they had some good matches, but it's almost like they're trying to see, okay, how bad can we do on this card? How few tickets can we sell? I haven't seen how the tickets are doing. I don't know if you talked to Dave about it, but
no, I haven't seen anything about it. No. I don't even know how the Dynasty show is doing either.
Well, worse than Wrestle Kingdom. That's what I heard. But I want to say Wrestle Kingdom was at around 20, and then Dynasty was below that. But don't quote me. That's
Well,
just what I think I heard.
on Wrestling Observer Radio, we did a big discussion about, at least in the US, this wasn't about Japan, but just how
Right.
everything except WWE is just not.
And even with WWE, it's only Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
Because NXT is not selling tickets either.
I do hope NXT does good in LA though when they go to LA. For
LA, and they got Lowell coming up too.
Yeah, they're going
this week, I think.
I think they do a couple shows there, right?
I think they're just taping 2 shows.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I don't know exactly what the deal is, but I know they're there this week. Ethan Page, he's doing the Lost the Smile gimmick, and Lowell is where Shawn Michaels gave that speech. So look out for that.
I wonder if Shawn Michaels chuckles at being reminded about that stuff, or he's like, man, I was such a jackass.
Or he just forgot. Because he was so freaking spaced out at that time.
I'm sure. All right. Well, thank you for doing this. You saved me again, or else we were going to have
so much fun.
dark.
This was so much fun. I enjoyed it.
And so I know that if people are looking for a post Saturday night's main event recap on the Fight Game Media channel, Keila Cash and Scott Young are going to go up probably about 20 to 30 minutes after Saturday night main event is over. So you can go to Fight Game Media channel. If you hit subscribe, I will very much appreciate it. But yeah, so Paul and I are done here. So John will hopefully be back next week. I think he should be okay. We'll be back in our normal schedule, but we are, I mentioned Scott and Keila because John and I, Christmas week, so 2 weeks from now, John and I are going to record on another Thursday, and I think we're going to try and go live here again on a Friday night, and we're going to do an NXT draft. So basically, we're each going to pick 3 acts from NXT that if we were trying to draft for 2025, this is the order in which we will draft them. So that is we've been talking about this to get them on this show, and I think that's a good way to do it. So 2 weeks from tonight, actually, so the 27th, they're going to be on with us to do a live NXT draft. And then we'll let them go to sleep because I think John and I have to. They're both on the East Coast, so John and I will then have to do our World's End preview because World's End is the next day.
Oh my god!
Lots of stuff, man. It never ends.
No.
All righty. Thank you very much, Paul Fontaine. For Paul, I am Double G. Thanks to everybody who hung out with us in the chat. I do love seeing the comments. It is very fun to see live comments. So I like doing these live shows. All right. Peace out.